You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast, www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
There's a lot going on, as Rachel Maddow literally says every night when she opens her show, because literally there is never not a lot going on right now. But I'm going to focus on the particular overlap between the Robert Mueller probe, former FBI head James Comey's explosive new book, A Higher Loyalty, and my specific area of expertise, which is, of course, all the kinky motherfuckers out there. The question I'm going to focus on with laser-like precision: is POTUS, is the President of the United States, is 45, is Donald J. Trump into piss? Quote, I honestly never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current President of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013, Comey told George Stephanopoulos in an interview that aired on ABC on Sunday night. It was the same interview in which Comey called Trump morally unfit to serve as President of the United States, not because of the piss thing, but because of the lying, liar, liar thing. And he also called Trump a stain on all around him. Side note, people who worked in the Trump White House are finding it impossible to get jobs after they leave. Considering the number of people who leave, get fired, or are indicted, that is a lot of jobless former Trump White House staffers. So, hey, let's all keep those unemployed motherfuckers in our thoughts and prayers, shall we? Maybe light a little candle? Anyway, back to the piss tape. The president told James Comey in a private meeting that it could not have happened. He would never be in the same room with pissing Russian sex workers. Non-pissing Russian sex workers, on the other hand. Quoting here from the Washington Post's write-up of the more salacious details in A Higher Loyalty, Comey writes that Trump asked him to have the FBI investigate the allegations to prove they were not true, and offered varying explanations to convince him why. I'm a germaphobe, Trump told him in a follow-up call on January 11, 2017. According to Comey's account, there's no way I would let people pee on each other around me. No way. Later, the president asked what could be done to lift the cloud of the pee tape because it was so painful for First Lady Melania Trump. Jumping ahead, a week later, Trump called Comey again, and Comey describes Trump as, quote, fixated on the prostitutes allegation. The president-elect argued that it could not be true because he had not stayed overnight in Moscow, but had only used the hotel room to change his clothes. And after Trump explained that he would never allow people to urinate near him, Comey recalls laughing. I decided not to tell him that the activity alleged did not seem to require either an overnight stay or even being in proximity to the participants, Comey writes. In fact, though I didn't know for sure, I imagined the presidential suite of the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow was large enough for a germaphobe to be at a safe distance from the activity. Okay, so Trump may or may not have been in close proximity, but an appeal to germophobia does not get one off the piss freak hook. For anyone who knows anything about kink, it has the opposite effect. Your average germaphobe is viewed as somewhat likelier to be into filthy, gross, wet, messy, and yes, germy things than your average non-germaphobe. I mean, think about it. While no one chooses their kinks, there is nothing kink-shamey about the points that I am making here, and kinks can sometimes seem quite randomly assigned. Most people's kinks do involve eroticized transgressions, not just against societal norms and standards, but against the self. Eroticized violations of our own self-image, our own self-perception, and our self-projection. Think of all those strong feminist women out there who take no crap out of the bedroom, but inside the bedroom want to have their hair pulled consensually, their asses slapped consensually, and to be called sluts consensually. Think of all those out and proud gay men out there who speak up whenever anyone says anything even remotely homophobic, but who love being called faggot when they're getting fucked. Think of all those powerful and wealthy straight white men who patronize professional dominatrixes because nothing gets them off like crawling, begging, and giving up that power. And think of all those white straight men into racialized cuckolding who harbor racist sentiments, but nothing gets them off quite like watching black men have sex with their wives. Of course, not every germaphobe is into piss and or other forms of wet and or messy play, just as not every feminist woman wants to have her hair pulled and her ass slapped, and not every out and proud gay man gets off on being called a faggot when there's a dick in his ass, and not every wealthy and powerful straight white man gets off on being made to crawl and beg by a crop-wielding, strap-on-wearing dominatrix, and not every racist white man gets off on racialized, cuckolding interracial sex. But enough in each category do, or does or do. Anyway, enough in each category do for all of these things, for these kinks, to qualify as cliches. We can't speak with certainty about their statistical significance because there aren't a lot of grants out there for researchers who study kinks. But the anecdotal evidence is pretty overwhelming. So an appeal to germophobia or feminism or pride or power or racism, that by itself isn't proof that someone isn't turned on by piss, ravishment, homophobic dirty talk, submission, or racialized cuckolding, respectively. If anything, it increases the odds for the opposite to be the case. And a person who's ashamed of their kinks or in a panic to cover them up, in my experience, that person is highly likely to point to the very thing that makes their kink so arousing in the first place. Instead of, that's not something that turns me on, so that is not something I would do, they say, I couldn't be into that because I'm a germaphobe, feminist, proud gay man, powerful dude, racist piece of shit. And people do this because the kinkster subconsciously longs to be exposed, another violation of the self. And it's not just the kinkster who longs for this kind of exposure. Why? Ask yourself why people are so bad at keeping their sexual secrets. Maybe it's because these aren't secrets that deep down we really want to keep. Maybe deep down, actually deep down, we all long to be known for who and what we are. But only a few of us are lucky enough to have a special prosecutor making that happen. So yeah, the P-tape is real, as Donald J. Trump himself keeps telling us. Finally, President of the United States, who is into piss, in my professional opinion, is extremely pissed at James Comey and tweeted this along with 10,000 other tweets over the weekend. James Comey is a proven leaker and liar. He leaked classified information for which he should be prosecuted. That Trump can't attack Comey without accusing Comey of being a proven leaker who took leaks to the media and continues to leak leaks all over the place. That's pretty revealing all by itself. Okay, Denver, I am coming to you. Denver, Colorado on May 10th, Savage Love Live at the Oriental Theater. For tickets, go to savagelovecast.com/events. And coming up on today's show on the Micro Savage Lovecast, tons of your Qs, lots of my As. And on the Magnum version of the show, twice as long, no ads, subscribe at savagelovecast.com. Cunning Minx, host of the Poly Weekly podcast, joins us to help me tackle some particularly tricky poly-oriented relationship questions. Also on today's show, cock rings, definitively explained. All that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Stamps.com. Stamps.com brings all the services of the U.S. Postal Service right to your fingertips. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package, any class of mail using your own computer and printer. And right now you can enjoy the Stamps service with a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in my code, SAVAGE. That's Stamps.com, click the mic, enter SAVAGE. This episode is brought to you by Hims, the one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men. Get a trial month of everything you need to keep your hair for just $5 by going to forhims.com/savage. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Boll and Branch, luxury, affordable, fair trade certified sheets. Get $50 off a set of sheets plus free shipping by going to bollandbranch.com and entering SAVAGE.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling from the East Coast, and I'm married. I've been married for about 8 years, and the last 4 years of that, I've been in an open relationship, which has been really great. But so the situation now is that I've been hooking up with this guy who's like a friend of ours, and he just never makes me come. So he did once when I took his hand and showed him how to do it, but after that he hasn't. So why do I continue to sleep with him is that it's opened up this crazy dynamic with me and my husband where, like, I come home, I go have like fine but not orgasmic sex with that guy. Then I come home and my husband's like, you know, I'm the only one who can make you come, and it's really hot, and then we like have mind-blowing sex. But I guess the question in my mind is if I should confront this guy more about why he doesn't do it. I haven't confronted him because I've been all caught up in this dynamic with my husband, which is really like exciting for us. But then I'm like, should I say something to him? Do I have an ethical obligation to say something to him? Is he just being an asshole? Does it matter? If he were my primary partner, I wouldn't accept that kind of behavior and I would confront it. But I've been kind of just letting it slide. But I wonder if I'm like encouraging bad behavior, I guess.
So what you're doing works for you. This guy that you hook up with is the underwhelming appetizer, and then you head home to the husband and you have a kick-ass entree. It's almost like the dude is foreplay, and the sex with your husband you have after you hook up with this dude is the main event. And that setup works for you. It actually sounds like it kind of turns you on, and it certainly rebounds to the benefit, rebounds, I can never remember which it is. Rebounds to the benefit of your husband. So there's definitely something in it for him too. But do you have an ethical, moral obligation to slap this guy upside the head and tell him that he ain't doing it for you and he ain't making any effort to do it for you despite you walking him through what it is you need in order to come? And of course, if that dude made that effort and you came with him, there's nothing to prevent you from heading home and coming again with the husband because you have that superpower. All women have that superpower. And some men have that superpower too. It's a real dilemma because things as they are now kind of work for you and kind of work for him. But as with any man who doesn't make an effort to make a woman come or assumes that a woman is coming or the woman is faking the orgasms and leading him to believe that his moves are magic and his dick is magic will make a woman come, you're setting up women who are going to come into his life later for inattentiveness at the very least and boorish asshole selfishness at worst. And you have to think of the women down the line when you're with some dude who doesn't give a shit about whether you come or not. So I would say something to him. You don't have to say, I want this to change. You can say to him, you know what? This is working. We fuck around and you take your pleasure in me and then I go home and I have a shattering orgasm with my husband. So whatever, dude, I showed you what it takes to make me come. You're obviously not interested in making the effort, but you know, there are going to be women in your life in future who don't have husbands they're going to go to after they see you who care about whether they come or not. And I worry about them. So I just want to make the point, just want to stick a pin in this and let you know we can keep doing as we're doing and you can keep not doing as you're not doing for me. But for the women coming after me, yeah, you're not going to be able to keep one for your own if this is your MO. Any self-respecting woman is going to get up and go. I only drop by occasionally because I enjoy this for my own reasons. And in the context of my relationship with my husband, it works for us. This is not going to work with 99.99% of the women out there in the world that you encounter. And you're lucky that it works for me, thanks to my husband. And that has earned you continued access to my pussy. With any other woman that you treated like this, yeah, I bet her legs are going to slam shut. And they should. And now, drop your pants and let's not do this thing. Let's start this thing so that I can go home and my husband can finish it.
Hey, Dan, Nancy, and the Tech Savvy Youth. My girlfriend and I have a question. Our friend who just got laid after 15 months of downtime had a little mistaken encounter with a condom and a cock ring. We're just wondering what the deal is with cock rings, and do they make your dick bigger, or is it like a longevity thing or a sensitivity thing? Just a little curious.
God bless you for this question. 20 plus years ago when I started writing Savage Love, my sex advice column, every once in a while I get a question like this. What's a cock ring? How does a cock ring work? Or what's a butt plug? How does a butt plug work? And I loved questions like that because they're so easy to answer. Unlike the questions you get now, which are all situational ethics. They did this, I did that. Who's right? Who's wrong? Please, Dan, cut this baby in half, won't you? But you don't get questions about cock rings or butt plugs anymore and what they are and how to use them when you write a sex advice column or host a sex advice podcast because cock rings and butt plugs literally have their own wiki pages that explain everything in far greater detail than I could ever explain it in a column or really on the podcast unless I dedicated 6 or 7 hours to cock rings. Cock rings are pretty simple. Some people just wear them because they're pretty. It's a nice visual adornment. It draws focus and attention, but they have a functional purpose, and this is why most people will wear them. When you get an erection, the blood that flows into your penis flows into the erectile chambers deep inside. And as those expand, they constrict the veins or arteries, I can't remember which it is, that take blood away from the penis, which are closer to the surface. And that's why you get an erection. That's why your dick gets hard, because blood is getting in faster than it can get out. And not only that, the arteries or veins that carry the blood out are a little pinched. They're not able to carry the blood out quite as quickly as they normally do when you're not hard. And what a cock ring does is it adds another level of constriction and makes it a little harder for the blood to exit your penis. This is why it's crucially important when you use a cock ring that you use one that is sized appropriately. You don't want to use one that's too small. You don't want to make it impossible for blood to get out of your penis, because then you will be at the hospital 3 hours later having that cock ring sawn off by a professional in a race against the clock, in a race against gangrene or other forms of damage. So use an appropriately sized cock ring. And it needs to be snug but not tight when you have an erection. If it's snug but not tight when you're soft and then you get hard, it's probably going to be way too tight, particularly if you are a grower, not a shower. Some people use cock rings because they have ED, and it adds an extra little boost along with perhaps Viagra or Cialis. Again, some people use them just because they're pretty. Some people use them who don't have any trouble getting an erection, but they sometimes begin to flag a little bit. They begin to go a little bit soft, and they want the added boost, the added restriction that carries them over those perhaps distracted moments where they might totally deflate in the absence of a cock ring. Maybe they only partially deflate with the help of a cock ring, and then their dick comes roaring back like dicks do. Oh, thank you for this question. It was such a treat to get to talk for a few minutes about cock rings and not to have to take one side or the other in a dispute between a couple or a throuple or a quadruple or the whole world. Thanks, like you. 66% of men start losing their hair by age 35. But you know what? When you start to notice hair loss, it's too late. It's easier to keep the hair you have than replace hair you've lost. Fortunately, there is a solution. forhims.com. It's a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men. They offer medical-grade solutions, real doctors offering well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. It's not herbal supplements. Down with herbal supplements. Rather, it is prescription solutions backed by medical science. Up with science. Another benefit, you don't have to go to the doctor's office, so no waiting room, no awkward doctor visits. Save hours by going to forhims.com. You answer a few quick questions, the doctor will review and can prescribe to you. Then they mail your prescription directly to your door. Order now. My listeners get a trial month of everything you need to keep your hair for just $5 today, right now, while supplies last. See the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to a doctor or a pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/savage. That's forhims.com/savage. forhims.com/savage.
Hi, Dan. 25-year-old gay married male here. A month ago, my husband told me he wanted space after he repeatedly refused to have sex with me, so we got separated. In therapy, he said he hasn't been emotionally connected for a year, but this was after he cheated on me. We were in an open relationship, and the only rules were to play safe, and no emotional connections were allowed. Well, he fell in love with someone else. I shut it down, and now I guess it's the aftermath. He said we would still talk and leave the door open for our relationship while we separated, but he's just confused on what he wants. And not too long ago, he ghosted me for several days, and it's been causing lots of anxiety. Where do I go from here? I still love him, but I'm not sure he wants to be with me, and a lot of times I feel like I have more love for him than he does for me. Some of my friends think he's depressed, and I think he could be too, but I'm not sure. If you were me, what steps would you take next?
If I were you, if I were in this situation, the next step that I would take would be, and forgive me for this, consulting a divorce attorney. You say that your husband is confused about what he wants, or he tells you that he's confused about what he wants. Often when people say they're confused about what they want, what they're saying is they're afraid to say out loud what it is they want. So I would encourage you, instead of waiting for him to say what it is that he wants, to look at his actions. And his actions are kind of telling you loud and clear that he wants out. He doesn't want to have sex with you. He got involved with someone else and fell in love with that person until you shut it down. He ghosts on you and disappears. And yet he's going to counseling with you, probably so that when things do end, he can say that he did everything that he could, everything that was asked of him to save the marriage, that in the end couldn't be saved because he doesn't want to be in this marriage. He's not telling you that. He's not using his words to tell you that, but his actions really do seem to be telling you that. And I think you should listen to his actions and stop waiting around for his words to catch up. So I would, if I were you, consult a divorce attorney. I would, if I were you, bring that up, that you have consulted a divorce attorney, in your next joint counseling session and hash it out. Call the question. Call his bluff. And I'm sorry, you are in love with this person. You sounds like you're in love with a person who is not in love with you or is not in love with being married. Something isn't working for him that makes the marriage and you not work for him. And he isn't telling, he isn't saying, and that's incredibly frustrating to live with that absence, that to live with not knowing what you have a right to know. And what he really has a moral obligation to tell you, but it doesn't sound like he has the moral courage to tell you. He probably is telling himself that this is kinder, drawing it out in this way, letting you live in what is probably false hope is the nice, kind, affectionate, loving thing for him to do when it's never nice, it's never kind, it's never loving, it's never affectionate to pull a Band-Aid off so slowly that someone is in pain 24 fucking hours a day. So, call his bluff. Talk to a divorce attorney. Don't file for divorce. Talk to a divorce attorney. Talk to him about the fact that you've spoken to someone, just about your options going forward, because you can't live forever with things as they are now, and you don't intend to live forever as things are now. And things have got to get better or you've got to get out. And that's what I would do. Things get better or I'm getting out. That's what I would tell my estranged husband if I were in your shoes. I'm so sorry. And just as a general note, and I say this all the time, and I don't want to salt your wounds, caller, but I say this all the time, 25 is too young. 25 is too young to be married. It is. It's not too young to be engaged. Have a nice, long, epic engagement. But 25 is too young. 25 is too young. Make your bed a magical, sexy place with Boll & Branch sheets. Everything Boll & Branch makes, from bedding to blankets, is made from pure 100% organic cotton, which means they start out super soft and get even softer over time. You buy directly from them, so you're essentially paying wholesale prices. Luxury sheets can cost up to $1,000 in the store, but Boll & Branch sheets are only a couple of $100. Everyone who tries Boll & Branch sheets loves them. That's why they have thousands of 5-star reviews. And Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, and Fast Company are all talking about Boll & Branch. Boll & Branch also only uses sustainable and responsible methods of sourcing and manufacturing. They donate a portion of every sale to charity to help fight human trafficking while preserving fair prices for consumers. Shipping is free and you can try them for 30 nights. If you don't love your new sheets, send them back for a refund, but I doubt you'll want to send them back. Either way, there's no risk and no reason not to give these sheets a try. To get you started right now, my listeners get $50 off your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com, promo code SAVAGE. That's BOLL and branch.com, promo code SAVAGE, bollandbranch.com, promo code SAVAGE.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 25-year-old gay cisgender male living in the East Coast. I have been in a relationship with this guy for almost a year now, and I'm starting to have doubts. Not about him. He truly has all of the qualities I'm looking for. Our sex life is amazing. Our emotional and physical connection feels so right. He's spontaneous. He makes me laugh. He's motivated. And I feel like I have the same qualities that he is also looking for in a partner. The doubts come from the fact that he came pretty immediately after I ended a 4-year relationship. feelings of not completely being ready, or having the time to grieve my last relationship, or having the time to find myself as an individual again and be single, quote unquote, for a bit of time. And fears of not being able to say no to temptation, which was also a problem in my last relationship. We were always going to be attracted to other men, and I get that. And we are still so young, and I can't seem to quiet the thoughts of being too young to really know what I want or be able to commit for long-term or even life. Would love to hear your opinion on this. I really think this new guy might be it, and I don't want to lose him. I've communicated these concerns to him, and we have tried talking about it, working through it, and he has been so patient with me. We tried taking breaks, but ultimately we find ourselves being drawn right back to each other. We can't stand the thought of each other being with other people, and ultimately we don't want to take the time and then risk the other one finding someone else. This relationship feels too incredible to just let go. He's really fed up and frustrated with this whole thing, and I feel equally as frustrated and terrible that I'm not giving him what I want and should be giving him. He is fully in it with me and wants to move forward together, which my overwhelming thoughts have gotten in the way of. He needs to trust that these doubts are going away, and I want to trust that I'm fully in it with him. How can I get myself there so that we both feel comfortable moving forward and like we are working towards making a future together without having any doubts?
Dude, you are always going to have doubts. If you can't move forward, if you can't commit until you've eradicated all doubt, then you'll never move forward and you'll never commit. Listen to your Sondheim. Get out Follies. Get out Company. I'm not going to start singing songs, but there's a lot of really great life lessons and lessons about how sometimes there is this ambiguous feeling when you're in a committed long-term relationship. The road you didn't take, the other people that you could have been with, that does weigh on you, the experiences you could have had. And then you need to shift your focus to who you are with and the experiences you are having with that person. Then you need to shift your focus to the person you are with and the experiences that you are having with that person. And it won't eradicate doubt, but it will act as a balm. It will make you feel better in the final equation, the who and the what you're with and what you're experiencing with this person. It can never measure up in your fantasies about all the other people you could have been with and the other things that you could have done. But you have to remind yourself of those moments that those are fantasies. And if things are great with this guy and the sex is amazing and there's a strong emotional connection, you don't toss that aside for arbitrary, silly rules, reasons like we met on the rebound. So fucking what? I met Terry on the rebound 24 fucking years ago. People meet on the rebound and have terrific relationships on the rebound. Rebound has a bad rep because most relationships fail. Most new relationships, people date, people fuck around, they hang out for a while, and they walk away. And if it was a rebound relationship, people go, oh yeah, those rebound relationships, they never work out. And if they stay together forever, it doesn't play into people's confirmation bias about a rebound relationship because they never broke up. So people don't go, oh yeah, look at that rebound relationship, they broke up. That's what happens in those rebound relationships. If they stay together forever, people forget it was a rebound relationship. They don't talk about it as a rebound relationship. So this guy works for you. Stop telling yourself that this guy isn't allowed to work for you because you weren't single long enough after your previous relationship, because there are experiences or adventures that you haven't had as a single person, and instead tell yourself that there are experiences and adventures that you two can have together. And it is really important if you want a long-term committed relationship, monogamous or not monogamous, to have adventures together, to keep it fresh and new and exciting. At the beginning of a relationship, you're just a year in. The relationship itself is fresh and new and exciting. And we love that feeling of freshness, newness, and excitement. And when that drains out of the relationship, when just the two of you being together is not by itself going to feel fresh and new and exciting, it's on you as a couple to consciously engineer fresh and new and exciting. For a lot of gay couples, that means the occasional three-way, but if you guys are going to be monogamous, that just means being creative and inventive about when and where and how you're intimate and the risks you can take and the excitement that you can build into your monogamous commitment so that you can have freshness, have newness, have excitement, have adventures together with the person, this awesome person, and he sounds terrific, that you've been with for a very long time, because you haven't been with him a long time yet, but a long time is coming. And you can have freshness, newness, excitement, and adventure with someone that you've been with for a long time. And this guy sounds like someone you could be with for a long time. Stop looking at him and slapping the rebound label on him and convincing yourself that you should walk away from him for that reason. That is a bullshit reason to walk away from someone who sounds perfect for you. So commit to this. Commit to this guy for now, for another year. Don't think of it as committing to him for the rest of your fucking life for the next 5 or 6 decades. Think of it as the next year. And if you get to 2 years with this guy, commit to him for 2 more years. And if you get to 4, you know what? Not a rebound relationship. Oh, and you're 25. Commit to but don't marry. Nice long engagement. If you two want to go the marriage route, you can get engaged and wait till you're 32, like a responsible adult. These days, you can get practically everything on demand, like this here podcast. You listen whenever you want, when it's convenient for you. So why are you still taking those inconvenient trips to the post office to mail letters and packages when you can get postage on demand at home with Stamps.com? With Stamps.com, you can access all the amazing services of the post office right from your desk 24/7 when it's convenient for you. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package, using your own computer and printer, and then let your mail carrier pick it up. Just click print mail and you are done. It couldn't be easier. Right now, use Savage for this special offer. Includes up to $55 worth of free postage, a digital scale, and a 4-week trial. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com. Before you do anything else, click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Savage. That's Stamps.com. Enter SAVAGE.
Hi, Dan. This is a relationship question, but mostly a parental question. My parents are landlords in Seattle. They worked hard my entire life so that they could give me and my cousins a stable life. I live in another city with a job I like and a boyfriend I love, but they're putting pressure on me to buy a house in Seattle. My boyfriend said we can move, but they treat him horribly and say things like, he doesn't know about your money, does he? And he doesn't know anyone there. Dan, I've been reading a lot about how fucked up the system is for the poor and about the housing shortage in Seattle. It makes me really sad to see the income inequality that's rising there. I feel so much internal turmoil between being a good daughter and being a good person and having a free life with my boyfriend doing our own interests. What should I do?
So to sum up, the problem here is that your wealthy parents want you to move to Seattle and buy a house where you pretty much have to be wealthy to do that these days with your boyfriend whom they hate. And what should you do? You should do what you want to do. You should date the guy that you want to date. You should, of course, always listen to your parents, listen to your friends. If everybody in your life is saying, I think your boyfriend is bad news, maybe they're right. Maybe you should pause and think about what they've had to say. But if your parents are just unkind or irrational and have judged your boyfriend unfairly and can't see his good qualities because your parents are assholes, then you should continue to date your boyfriend. And if you don't want to live in Seattle, you don't have to live in Seattle because you are an adult and you get to make your own choices. And if my parents were controlling and felt that they could order me around about where I lived and what kind of house I bought and when and who I fucked, I wouldn't want to live in the same city with them. I would want to keep them at a geographic remove. So you're an adult. Live your adult life. Make your own choices without apology.
Hi, Dan. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm calling from a major metropolitan city on the West Coast, and I'm actually calling for my colleague who is sitting here across from me, and he lives with his ex-girlfriend. They dated for a couple of years, and they have lived together as friends for about 6 now, and his question is how and when should he roll that out to new people that he's dating? When should he tell new people that he lives with his ex? He says it's been a problem in the past. I suggested it's something that should come up maybe around the 3rd or 4th date, as you're starting to get to know someone, and that it shouldn't be a problem, especially given how long they've lived together as friends. I think the bigger issue is the 2 cats they share and his deep, abiding love for those cats. So should he move out, or should he just wait for someone for whom that will not be a big deal?
I always think it's a good sign when someone is friends with their ex. I don't understand people who are made insecure or fearful or get judgy about dating someone who's friends with their ex. most of the people that we date, we are going to wind up on their list of exes, because every relationship you're ever going to be in is going to fail, quote unquote, until one doesn't. And you never know which one that is. And people have a lot more sort of tentative starter relationships than they have long-term epic relationships. So you're going to have a lot of exes in the world. And if somebody's exes like that person and have good relationships with that person, not intimate relationships, not romantically intense relationships that shove out potential new partners, but good friendly relationships with exes that they stay in contact with and have a sort of an appropriate level of quote unquote intimacy with, that's a good sign. Beware the person who hates all of their exes and is hated by all of their exes, because they're probably going to hate you and you're going to hate them in the end, because odds are that this relationship, like all new, brand new, nascent, trying it out relationships, isn't going to work out. That said, I think there's a difference between friends with X and lives with X and is co-parenting a couple of beloved cats with X, because that screams a kind of day-to-day intimacy, intense intimacy, expansive, and all-encompassing and crowding out intimacy that a person that he might consider dating or might consider dating him would be threatened by, understandably. Like, how much room and space is there in his life for someone new if he lives with his ex long-term, co-parents beloved animals, cats, with his ex, and can't put an appropriate distance between himself and his ex to create room in his life emotionally, spatially, for a new person to come in and be the person, the most important person in his life. Also, living with the ex kind of is one of those things that screams bad judgment, because most people are going to have a problem with that. Some people who would have a problem with that, it exists on the continuum of having a problem with someone who's friendly with their ex in any way, in contact with their ex in any way, still following their ex on Facebook or Instagram. Some people who would have a problem with that would have a problem with any friendship or contact with the ex, and they're the problem. But some people might have a problem with that just because what it says is I have bad judgment. And that's an underappreciated aspect of dating and mating. We are looking for partners who have good judgment. We don't want to live with people who are going to accidentally set the house on fire. We don't want to live with people who demonstrate day-to-day piss poor judgment. And living with an ex is a manifestation, perhaps, in many people's eyes, even if they couldn't articulate it or name it. It's evidence of poor judgment, because most people are going to have a problem with this. And you should be able to anticipate the fact that most people are going to have a problem with this. So the fact that you do it anyway might lead me to believe that you have piss poor judgment and might make me think twice about dating you. Yeah, I don't think your single friend is doing himself any favors or making his path any easier by living with his ex. For sure there will be women out there who won't have a problem with this, but they're going to be rather few and far between. If he wants more options, he needs to get his own place. Take one of the cats.
Hey, Dan. I'm a 23-year-old male in the Pacific Northwest with kind of an interesting situation I'd like to get your take on. So I moved here from across the country. I'm in a committed relationship, and we still both use Tinder as a way to meet people and make new connections. I'm straight, but swipe to meet both males and females. A few weeks ago, I happened upon a guy's profile and noticed he went to the same university as me when I lived in New England. We had a similar circle of friends based on our Tinder connections, so I happily swiped right, looking forward to meeting another East Coaster in the Pacific Northwest. Based on his profile, I was under the impression he was gay, but this didn't at all deter me from making a potential new friend in a big city. In my profile, I said I have a girlfriend, and I even communicated this to him over text. We got drinks together one night, during which time I told him I wasn't gay, and it did little to affect our night or the conversation. We had a really good time and look forward to meeting up again for drinks or a run in the future. A few days after our hangout, though, an old ex-girlfriend of mine that I rarely speak with contacted me out of the blue, saying she had heard through a mutual friend of myself and this guy that I had gone out with him. She then went on to question whether or not I was gay. She made it a point to emphasize her concern over the matter, saying that she had been hurt hearing that news, and then stated that if I was in fact gay, she'd have a lot to process. At first I found all this funny when she said it, as it was a huge misinterpretation on her part,
But the more I thought about the situation, the more I became frustrated with the notion that she was contacting me simply to see if I was gay, which would be none of her business, as she herself even pointed out in her opening message to me. She then went on to make this about her emotions and reactions to hearing that news. Had I in fact been gay, this would have been both hurtful and insulting to have a past lover assume my sexuality had any real effect on her life years after we've been apart. Additionally, I thought it was immoral of her to reach out simply to tell me how she feels about it and how she needs to cope, rather than to be happy or accepting should that have been the case. I went on to tell her that the way she went about this was wrong, and that my sexuality, regardless of whether or not I was gay, did not give her the right to message me based on her insecurities. I'd love to hear your opinion on this matter. Thanks.
There are girls out there, and I hear from them every once in a while. Actually, I think at this point I've heard from every single one of them who faced this problem. There are girls out there who have dated a string of guys who came out after they were together. There are girls out there who have 6 or 7 or 8 ex-boyfriends who are all homos now, and were homos then, just not out. And so what she did was wrong. But before I can, send her to you shouldn't have done that, wrong text prison, I'd want to interrogate her about why this news about you going on a quote-unquote friendship Tinder date with someone was so potentially traumatizing to her that she had to reach out in this way. And if she's had 7 or 8 boyfriends in a row who later came out as gay, it doesn't make what she did okay, but it certainly puts it in a context where you can understand why someone who has this particular insecurity might have the particular meltdown that she did via text with you. Doesn't mean she shouldn't be punished for it. Doesn't mean she shouldn't be sent to text prison for a couple of days, do some community service, say a few Hail Marys. But if that was the case, I can certainly understand why she might have that meltdown, because a lot of girls have that meltdown in my email inbox every day. So in summation, Your Honor, she did something shitty. She asked you questions that she had no right to ask you. Sounds like you did a good job of shutting it down. And that's the end of it. And hopefully you won't hear from her ever again. And hopefully the guy that you hung out with because you went to the same college together and you're in a new place together and it was a Tinder friendship date isn't a gossip and isn't out there claiming that you might secretly be gay because you went on a Tinder friendship date with him at all. Hopefully that isn't how this got to her, because you might need to shut him down too, if that's the case.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling about the mother who called about asking if it was weird to buy lube for her 12-year-old. And just wanted to let her know that, yeah, it's kind of weird, but it also works. I have a 17-year-old son, and we had many lubricating substances go missing from around our house, and the clincher was when he stole my very expensive coconut oil, and I found it. And so I went out and created a gift basket for him that was a bucket with a Cosmo and some lube and some lotion and some coconut-scented hand sanitizer because I'm evil, and some socks and some wipes and just the whole bucket of stuff with a card that had a picture of a dog farting rainbows on the front that said, "I hope your day is better than a dog farting rainbows." And I put it on his bed, and he was a little embarrassed and he blushed, but he also thought it was hilarious. And it was my way of telling him, like, have at it, go for it, don't steal my shit. And we still have little references to it and laugh about it now. So not shaming, not strange, turned out really well.
Hi, Dan. I'm just calling in response to the lady in the last podcast that said she doesn't filter her cursing when she's around her children. I just wanted to add that children don't have the social IQ to know when is appropriate to curse and when isn't appropriate to curse. This was a point of contention between my sister-in-law and I for a few years until her son at 4 decided to tell his daycare provider to fuck off after making him mad, and he got kicked out of the only daycare in town. Or when they were in line at the grocery store and the lady in front of him, their card declined, and he proceeded to tell her she was a broke-ass bitch. So, yeah, I would filter cursing around young children until they're old enough to surmise for themselves when it's appropriate and when it's not.
Hey, I am calling for the girl who recently gained a lot of weight and is going on dating apps. So I am 22. I weigh about 275 pounds. I have been on dating apps with and without my boyfriend as recently as a couple months ago. And let me tell you this, there are lots and lots and lots of people who are into that without being fetishizy about it. And also people aren't that cruel. I know it might be scary. Dan made it sound like there were going to be a lot of people. That's not necessarily the case. So I wish you the best of luck. I just want to give you my experience. It's going to be okay, although a thick skin is good every once in a while.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number here at the Savage Lovecast. If you'd like to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz. 206-302-2064. You know what? We need to impeach this motherfucker. ITMFA. I am wearing an ITMFA t-shirt right now. You can get yours at itmfa.org along with impeach the motherfucker already buttons and hats and coffee cups. And speaking of swag, we've got Savage Lovecast t-shirts, mugs, books at savagelovecast.com/shop. And be sure to listen to Blabbermouth every week, the Strangers Weekly Political Podcast hosted by Eli Sanders. If you like my political rants at the top of the show, you will love Blabbermouth, which you can find where you find the rest of your podcasts. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Listen to Cunning Minx on the Poly Weekly Podcast and follow her on Twitter at Cunning Minx. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech-savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We'll all be back at you next week with another installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thanks for coming.